But we heard about the Star Wars anime. And honestly, when I heard them say they were going to do a Star Wars anime, the only point of reference I had in my mind was, I don't know if you guys saw it, but a ways back, it was actually fan-made. Some fans, I think, from remembering correctly, had done an anime-style Star Wars, but it actually looked pretty cool. It was Star Wars. That's what it looked like. It was just done in an anime style. But you had TIE fighters in space going at each other. Luke might have been in it, I think. But it was Star Wars. It was Star Wars, and it just had that anime style. Take it or leave it, or like it or hate it, or whatever. This Visions trailer, I watched the trailer when it came out, not even remotely, because I wasn't like seeing if I wanted to watch it, because I'm done with Disney Star Wars. I'm not going to be sucked in. And a lot of people are still sucked in, still thinking there's hope. We're going to talk about that too, because this is why people are going to flock to this and watch it. This doesn't look like Star Wars at all. Not even remotely. Not even like, I get it. I know that's a lightsaber or that's a kyber crystal or whatever, but it still doesn't look like Star Wars. Even that a couple times where you see them in space or something, or wielding a bunch of lightsabers, it does not look like Star Wars. It looks like anime. It looks like, and this is to me, and I'm not I'm not an anime aficionado by any means, but it just looks like typical anime with a couple of trappings of Star Wars. And before we even get to the problem of supporting Disney Star Wars, no matter what they do, and I'll get there in a moment, before we even get to that, there's a problem here. You can't go too far off brand from a franchise genre. The genre, the franchise falls apart. That just simply can't be done. The only times it's ever been successful is if it becomes a completely new thing that bears so little resemblance to the old that it's not even the same thing at all. I'll give you some examples. All right. Now, I really don't like the Battlestar Galactica reboot they did. It was just based on writing toward a cliffhanger. There was really no coherency or integrity to the overall plot. A lot of people were upset with the end of the seasons, the final finale and the reveal of it all and everything. But that was a very successful series. I can't deny that. For me, I far, far prefer the old show, the old 80s show, that it was a reboot of. My point, though, is that it was not in any way the old Battlestar Galactica just adapted for the times or anything like that. It wasn't. It was a completely 100% new entity that just took a couple of the ideas and a couple of the names from the old show. I mean, that's obvious. It was nothing like the old show, because the old show was that 70s kind of space adventure, adventure in space. And it had it had cool concepts and everything. The new Battlestar Galactica was a completely first, because they made it that sort of 24 style. I mean, like the old show 24 with Kiefer Sutherland. They made it that 24 style of dark melodrama in the evenings, nighttime melodrama. That's what they made it. That's the genre they were pushing it in. Heavily dramatic, very dark. There's not really any characters that you can just root for 100%. Everybody's got these major dark sides and has done these major dark things and stuff like that. That was the genre that it went in. And that was 100% divorced from the original Battlestar Galactica. It was just that fun Star Wars-like. I mean, it came on that wave of like, oh, Star Wars is popular, let's do other things, like that. It came out of that wave, but it was something good that came out of that wave. So like it or hate it, I'm not trying to I'm not getting in a debate or something of, whether you should like it or hate it. I'm just trying to point out that I think everybody would agree that the Battlestar Galactica reboot was not in any way the old show brought back. It was a completely new thing. And so you might point to that and say, well, that worked. That's because they changed genres and that worked. Yeah, but it was a completely new thing. Now I'll give you an example, kind of following that same vein of something else where they tried to change genres of a franchise and it fell apart. Stargate. Stargate SG-1 is my hands down favorite sci-fi series out there. I like it better than Star Trek. I'm sorry. You can crucify me if you want, but no, Stargate SG-1, in my opinion, is just the superiorly written Star Trek or sci-fi series out there. And it was glorious. And they did the spinoff, Stargate Atlantis. Think what you want about Stargate Atlantis, but the point was, it's in the same universe, and it was a spinoff, and it was in the same genre. It was in that same tone, style of sci-fi adventure series. And I loved it. It was a lot of fun. Then they get around, they realize this is right around the time that Battlestar Galactica, the reboot, is so popular. The dark, gritty, everybody's, evil melodrama was so popular, and they did Stargate Universe. They tried to do another spinoff of Stargate in which they did the Battlestar Galactica treatment of Stargate. They had amazing cast in that show. They had Lou Diamond Phillips, for crying out loud. They had a lot of good actors a part of the show. Many of the same writers were working on it. But the show Stargate, what's so appealing about the Stargate SG-1 universe is the genre that it's written in. It fits that genre so well. You love spending time with this team of SG-1 or the Atlantis team and so forth. You want to continue to root for these people, and you're invested in their lives. Stargate, when you take that franchise and they tried to push it into a dark Battlestar Galactica kind of take with Stargate Universe, one of the critiques that a lot of people had was, I can't even root for any of these characters. They're all horrible. They were all just because it was that kind of take, and it didn't even get it. Did it even go past 2 seasons? Maybe the ratings just plummeted immediately. Like, it was a solid objective failure, and that's because you can't go off brand with the franchise in terms of genre. You can't do that. You can't do that unless you're going to try and make it a whole new thing and not set it in the same universe. That's the thing about Stargate Universe, is it's was supposed to be set in the same universe as SG-1 and Atlantis, to the point where you even had like, Colonel Carter and Michael Shanks and stuff like that, kind of guest appearing sometimes, and it was just bizarre seeing them there. It was like, what? It would have been like I'm forgetting the actor's name right now, but the guy who played Apollo in the original Battlestar Galactica, he came back for the Battlestar Galactica reboot playing that Senator so-and-so. But it would have been like if he was playing the same character. It just wouldn't have fit. What is this? How do these two worlds even remotely coexist, or work in the same genre? They just don't. So that's a problem. You can't go off brand. So with Star Wars is space opera. That's what it is. That's the way it works. So Star Wars is space opera. Now, that doesn't mean that every single Star Wars story has to follow to the T the genre specifications of, say, the original trilogy or the prequel trilogy or whatever. Because the EU, we had the glorious Star Wars EU, and that shows that you can stretch genres a little bit as long as you're remaining true to the one tentpole genre. You got an overarching tent genre that you're operating in, and you can stretch and spread your wings a little bit into subgenre areas beneath that, as long as you're true to that main tent genre. The classic MCU did this wonderfully, right? Think about all of those classic MCU, right up to Infinity War. Everything after that was garbage. Well, yeah, Captain Marvel came after that. So yeah, I did like Ant-Man and Wasp, which technically came after that. But anyway, the point is that all of those movies were superhero films. That was their genre. They were classic, firm hero's journey, all the trappings of a superhero movie. And yet, as the writers and producers and directors and everything got more comfortable within that universe, you could have things like an espionage thriller, like Winter Soldier. That was awesome, but it was still solidly a superhero movie. You could have things like Ant-Man, which was a heist film. Awesome, great, but it was still solidly a superhero movie. Civil War, which was more of a political drama, still solidly a superhero movie, and so forth. So that was that was a great way, or a great example of that. And the EU did this well. We've been, if you follow on my channel on Thursday nights, for the most part, I've been going through EU book studies, me and Big Al, and trying to keep the EU alive, because Disney's trying to just, they're just legends. Don't pay attention to that. Look at our stuff. Look at our High Republic, that kind of nonsense. But the EU was glorious, and you did have stretching its wings a little bit in terms of subgenres. Like we did Red Harvest, which is a horror novel, but it's that's the subgenre. It is within the space opera. I mean, it still feels like Star Wars, Old Republic era, obviously, if you're schooled in what was going on in the Old Republic era, still feels like that. And it's great. I recently read Darth Plagueis. Darth Plagueis is a very different kind of novel. It's not as much of adventure and high stakes as you would expect from other Star Wars material, but it's 100% the Star Wars universe. It's still space opera. It's just more of a political intrigue novel. There's room for that. So there is room for flexing your muscles a little bit, spreading your wings, as long as you're being true to the overall tent pole genre. that you're writing your franchise in, or that you're operating in. Star Wars Visions is completely exiting that tent. And you might say, no, well, they were in space a couple of times. The tone, the feel, and then you're going to say, oh, you just saw the trailer, you don't know. No, we know. You unless the trailer is a complete and 100% misdirection, like Kevin Smith pulled with Masters of the Universe. But even so, just nothing looks like Star Wars. Nothing looks like Star Wars or feels like Star Wars. And we don't have story or anything. We got a little bit of, some Jedi left a weapon there at one time or whatever. It wasn't working. My dear Sound Engraver for $2 says, you see disdain for genre working in the genre. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I like that you put that disdain for genre, because historically, anytime a genre has started to deconstruct itself and self-reference itself in a way that kind of mocked it and picked fun at itself, crossing the line. Every time that's happened, that's when that's a sign that the genre is about to fall out of favor in the public. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. I say time and again, people saying that the superhero movie Bubble, for example, was going to bust eventually. It didn't have to. It didn't have to, but the companies drove it into the ground. And one of the ways you see the signs of that is when the movies start to reference themselves, in kind of a mocking tone. This is what happened with film noir. That's why film noir wasn't a thing anymore. Eventually that died down. The Western craze, the 50s, the science fiction phase of the B movies, that were coming out and stuff like that. Anytime and I don't mean when they start to reference themselves like they die and go away, you don't ever have movies like that. No, of course. I just mean they're no longer in the public spotlight. They're no longer the thing that people are flocking to anymore. And I think we're seeing that. Well, we're seeing it with Disney Star Wars for a number of ways. The true fans are really just walking away because this garbage isn't even remotely true to the spirit of Star Wars anymore. But even casual fans, I think, that's a bit much. That's a bit much, hopefully. But this is the mark of death for the genre, which is a good thing. Star Wars needs to die. Disney Star Wars needs to die. True Star Wars will never die. But we can't have true Star Wars back again one day, or the EU revived in any kind of way that it's actually going to be handled properly, until Disney Star Wars just solidly dies, and the system has enough time to change over and whatnot. So that's the first problem with Star Wars Visions. It jumps the brand. It's not the same genre of Star Wars, and it just goes too far off brand. You can't do that. You can't do that and still have it be the same thing.